Imagine being able to type a list of 6 Pokemon into a computer, hit enter, and instantly receive a comprehensive guide back on how to defeat every trainer in a Pokemon game without losing a single time or even having one Pokemon faint, because that is what the future holds. Alright, dramatics out the way, it's time to talk about AI and Nuzlocking. Well, conveniently enough, AI is already a term used to describe the system that Pokemon games use to control trainers in a battle. It's an artificial intelligence that mimics a real person battling. Whether it performs this well or not is up to you. But there is a new type of AI on the horizon, a solver of sorts, which I'm going to talk about today, and why I think it could be beneficial for Nuzlocking in general. Now, whether it's one of your classmates getting caught using ChatGPT, or those annoying blue checkmark people on Twitter making threads on websites that will change your life, it's no secret that AI's technological capabilities are advancing at an exponential rate. Just look at the previously mentioned ChatGPT and Photoshop's generative AI fill as examples of recent artificial intelligence development. More recent AI systems, and by more recent I mean a few months later, such as GPT-4, are capable of instantly processing extremely large datasets and giving concise answers back in ways we haven't seen before. In this example, a user gave the program a photograph of their fridge and asked it to come up with a list of meals that can be created using the fridge's contents. Not only did it follow this task to the T, but it also provided step-by-step recipes on how to make each meal. Alright, back to talking about Pokemon, specifically Nuzlocke, because at their core, Nuzlocke are like a puzzle game within an RPG. When preparing to fight a boss trainer, you are attempting to find the right puzzle pieces you can fit together in a certain way to complete the jigsaw that is victory. Of course, there are variables you can't control in a Nuzlocke, such as encounters and the stats of your Pokemon. Each Pokemon has a set of moves it can learn at a level, and where you are in the game may alter what item you can give said Pokemon to. And unless you're in an extremely tough bind, with enough time and brain power, there will be a strategy out there using the resources you have that can beat said trainer 100% of the time with none of your Pokemon dying. This is especially true for vanilla games where the challenge posed by gym leaders is very much lowered. Do you see where I'm going with this? In theory, an advanced enough AI could take all of these possibilities you have access to, and also a copy of the trainer you're trying to defeat's team data, and always find a solution that results in a victory for the player. It does this by telling you which Pokemon to bring, which moves and items to give your Pokemon, and which action to take on every single turn. But it wouldn't just give you a victory, no. It could also take into account the chances of critical hits, random flinches, burns and stuff, to discover the path that has the least amount of risk, like a really advanced Minesweeper solver. If you're doing a harder challenge like a hardcore Nuzlocke, you can even extract your self-imposed restrictions, such as no healing or no setup moves, and put them on the bot. Think back to that fridge example I mentioned before. It's the same concept, but instead of foodstuffs, it's Pokemon. And instead of creating meals, we're finding the most efficient way to beat virtual animals senseless. I mean, we already have a damage calculator we can feed it that already knows all the calculations. It sounds simple in practice, but of course with anything Pokemon, there would be many complications. One argument being, wouldn't it be impossible for the AI to know what actions the opposing trainer would click? Well, surprisingly, that's actually very possible, because the algorithms used by the trainer AIs to determine what moves it will click and which Pokemon it will swap out to next when a Pokemon faints are themselves already well documented by Nuzlockers. All you have to do is feed it this move and switch AI info, and it will have no trouble knowing exactly what the opposing AI trainer will do at all times. Another potential problem stopping this being possible is that the wide spectrum of Pokemon data would be impossible for the AI to comprehend, and it could easily get confused and give errors. Alright, I hate to break it to you guys, but if a human can understand something, AI will probably be able to understand it at some point too. In fact, it already has quite a good grasp on Pokemon knowledge. As a test, I asked ChatGPT to create a team to defeat the champion of Pokemon Fire Red. What I received back was a team of Charizard, Jolteon, Lapras, Machamp, Alakazam, and Exeggutor. 6 extremely solid Pokemon for the game's Elite Four. Not only that, but it also provided me with the moves I should teach each Pokemon, and a brief explanation as to why said creatures should be on the squad. But I wanted to take things a little further, so I decided to use ChatGPT in a Nuzlocke setting to see how close we are to something like an instant solver. First, I asked it for some quick tips and tricks for someone trying out a Nuzlocke for the first time, and it gave me a list of 12 practices that would make a challenge run easier to handle. Now we've established that ChatGPT understands what a Nuzlocke is, I asked it to create a 100% foolproof turn-by-turn strategy for defeating Mars in the Valley Windworks in Pokemon Platinum. I gave it a standard team of Pokemon you'd expect for a Nuzlocke at this stage, along with their levels, moves, and abilities, and that I could not use the bag for X items and potions, which emulates the rules of a hardcore Nuzlocke. I then gave it Mars's team, told it that Zubat was her lead Pokemon, and hit enter. What I received back was interesting, to say the least. There was a turn-by-turn strategy guide given back that used data I provided, but a lot of the plays were definitely questionable, such as it telling Monferno to use Leer on Zubat, then use Ember. It also didn't give any indication about which moves Mars's Pokemon would use in response. But surprisingly, what it did understand is the idea that I had to preserve every Pokemon and keep them alive by switching them out when they were on low HP. I mean, it's fairly obvious we're a far way off having an instant battle planner, but you can definitely see the potential that is there. Why then would this be beneficial for the Nuzlocking community? Well, it's no secret over the past couple of years, difficulty hacks of Pokemon games have become harder and harder and harder and harder. Developers seem to be enamored with the idea of creating the ROM hack that is impossible to Nuzlocke. This increased difficulty naturally comes with a higher bar of preparation for boss battles, since obviously more thought needs to be put into them. And it's gotten to the point now where people are spending more time preparing for Pokemon trainers than they are actually playing these Pokemon games. Pull up a streamer right now playing a new ROM hack and I guarantee they'll be sat looking at the PC box. This is where the argument for an AI solver comes in, as it eliminates the need for time investment and thus makes for more entertaining Pokemon content that would benefit everyone. However, the argument can be made that by doing this, you are removing all the stakes within your Nuzlocke, because one of the biggest ways of skill expression in Nuzlocking is figuring out the strategy that works yourself. It's like saying you're really good at chess, but every turn you just use a chess solver. So ultimately, I think at some point a solver will exist like this, but it will just exist as a fun way to see whether or not you are close to the perfect strategy. But of course, let me know what you think of the prospect of an AI Nuzlocke solver. Are you for it or against it? And would you actually use it? Of course, if you enjoyed the video, please make sure to like, and thanks once again to all my patrons over on Patreon. Goodbye.